Hi, I'm Jessie Louise Evans. This is a letter that I wrote to my relatives in Canada during World War II. On January 28, 1941. I expect you would like to know how things are over here just now. You have probably read in the newspapers that we are threatened with invasion again. I think everyone is taking it much more calmly this time. We have all been told to get in a week's food supply, because if the invasion materializes, we will be ordered to remain indoors, presumably so that the streets may be free for the passage of our soldiers. It's a horrible thought really, especially as all our menfolk are away, but it may not happen, and certainly we are better prepared to resist it than was the case last year. It is generally supposed that if the Germans attempt an invasion it will be quite soon, so we are all keyed up waiting for something to happen. It is about 7 nights now since we had a raid, and some of us wonder if it has anything to do with big preparations on the other side. Less imaginative people put it down to the weather and possibly to the airfields in France being underwater. Whatever the cause, it has been lovely to go to sleep without the noise of the guns. The trouble is things seem so much more terrifying when they begin again. Mum actually went upstairs to sleep last night. She has had several sleepless nights on the floor downstairs, just lately, that she could not stand it any longer and decided to take advantage of this peculiar quietness at night to get into a real bed. She came downstairs this morning feeling more refreshed than for a long time. Quite lots of people have taken to sleeping upstairs again, and what a relief it is not to have to bother with making up beds on the floor last thing at night. We have just had the second warning at work, and I have had to stop writing to proceed to the basement of the building for safety. The second warning is given only when danger is imminent. We all sit around knitting, talking, reading or writing until the all clear is given. Spotters are posted at all important points on the roof of the factory, and they telephone down to the control room and report the progress of the raid and position and action of the enemy planes overhead, and on their instructions the all clear is given and we resume work again. We have already had 5 warnings today, which is surprising as we have been left alone both day and night for several days. It is very misty and raining slightly, but I believe this sort of weather suits lone raiders who sneak about in the clouds, appear for a second, drop a stick of bombs, and then back again into oblivion. Somebody has just suggested that it is the beginning of the invasion. It's hardly likely, but invasion is in the air, and it is the first thing we think of. I hope this raid will not last long, because I have left the kettle boiling in the office ready for tea. I think I can really say that we are now experiencing our first hardship with regard to rationing. Sugar, butter, eggs, etc. have been short for some time and we have managed quite well, but our meat rations have just been cut severely. I stay to lunch at work every day, which makes things a little easier for Mum. In place of meat we have all manner of new dishes, using cheese, fish, vegetables, etc. It is giving housewives a few headaches thinking out the menu every day. We have just had the all clear, and I am back again in the office. I have not heard yet whether any bombs were dropped. Eggs have been more plentiful, and there is now no need to keep them as a special treat for weekend breakfasts. We also manage quite well with our ration of butter and margarine. We could certainly use more butter if we were allowed it, but we manage without any special hardship. The price of tinned and bottled foodstuffs has risen considerably, but in most cases these things are luxuries and not essentials, such as jam and fruit. Sweets are very scarce and chocolate, almost unknown outside of the services canteens. However, despite all these items we are none of us any thinner through lack of food yet, and all realize that things will probably be a great deal worse before they can be better. Oh dear, we have just had the second warning again, and everyone has had to retrace their steps down to the basement again. One don't believe any bombs were dropped during the first raid, but the gunfire is pretty heavy at the moment. Here we are back in the office again. My employer has just suggested that the Germans are showing off today for the benefit of Mr. Wendell Wilkie. A nominee for President of the United States. My twin sister, Violet, has both the babies ill with measles and bronchitis at the moment. However, they are both over the worst of it, and will soon be back to normal again. We had a very quiet Christmas. Both George and Fred were on duty, but it was quite enjoyable. We missed our usual iced Christmas cake, and oranges. Dates and nuts were difficult to buy, but everyone managed, and if it has not been for the absence of the menfolk, it would have passed for a normal Christmas. Did you all have a good time? I see from your letter that you have had lots of snow. We have had a little, but only enough to make things unpleasant underfoot, and by now it has completely disappeared and the weather is quite mild. My brother George and Vera and the baby are quite well. The baby is a lovely little thing, and when I write to Dorothy, I will enclose a snapshot of her. She is now 8 months old and very knowing. George has got his props, and is kept very busy at the balloon barrage. Fred and Violet are well also. Since Fred has been in the fire service, he has become very useful at making things. Apparently, they have quite a bit of spare time, and for Christmas he made Maureen a scooter, and Tony a motor car. They were so thrilled with them and spent nearly all Christmas Day riding them. He is now working on a model of Nelson's ship for Violet. Mum is much better in health and at the moment is looking after a lady who has had a stroke. It will probably only be for a week or 2. When I got home from the office, Mum told me that 3 bombs had fallen in Harrow, and upon inquiry I find that one of them fell only a few yards away from a friend of mine. I phoned her this morning and she is unhurt. Several tiles were blown off the roof and they felt the shock pretty badly, but apart from that they are all safe. The bomb fell on a shop a few yards away, and started a small fire. Luckily nobody was hurt. We have already had one warning this morning which only lasted for about 30 minutes, and it's now all clear. I will write separately to Dorothy, possibly in a week or 2 after Ted's visit, when I shall have news to tell you of him. It's nearly time for me to go to lunch, so I will finish. I hope this letter reaches you. In case not, I am sending you another copy of it in about 14 days. With much love from all of us to all of you. Jessie.